Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay. Welcome to Library of Lindsay. You ever just come across some of those aesthetically pleasing videos on TikTok and it's this beautiful refurbished leather bag or an embroidery set or a rebound book and you're like, I think I can do that. So that happened to me back in February of 2024. I came across this reel, if I can find it, I'll show it up on screen, but I came across a reel of someone rebinding Fourth Wing and I thought to myself, I could do that. Or at least I thought I could do that. It took me a month to research all the materials I would need, understand what it would take to make a paperback into a hardcover, what I would need to design the book, to get all the materials that I was comfortable with purchasing, just to see if I could play around and see if this was going to be a new hobby that I wanted to take on. I'm going to be honest with you. Bookbinding, especially decorating that cover, is expensive, but the materials to actually make a hardcover are not that expensive. It just takes measurements, math, and a little bit of practice to make a paperback into a hardcover. I have the hyperfixation gene where if I see something and I obsess over it enough, that is all that I think about and that's all that I want to do. Rebinding books became that obsession. All of this being said, as I was doing my research, I immediately started thinking about what materials would I need, what type of knowledge would I need to get started. For some reason, I feel like this hobby is a little bit gate kept, which is unfortunate. I wanted to share my story and get people to understand that bookbinding, rebinding books, and doing this hobby in general should not be gate kept, and the knowledge is out there for everyone. Even if you don't use my tutorials, there are tutorials out there for you to get started. It just takes time to watch them a few times, as well as with the materials to understand all the measurements, everything that you need to cut correctly. Just like with any hobby, there's a learning curve. When I was researching, I also really didn't understand what was the difference between bookbinding and rebinding a book. Throughout this video, I've been using those terms interchangeably, but they're actually two different terms. Bookbinding is the art of actually sewing together pages to create a bound copy of pages. What I do is the easier way. What I do is I rebind book or recase books. What they call this exterior here is a case. So I rebind books. I will buy paperbacks and hardcover books that are already bound, take them apart, and then make my own hardcover on top of it, basically recasing or rebinding the book. When I got into this hobby, I really wanted to focus on the craft of making the case and making the hardcover, as well as the design. This design you see here, I drew myself on my iPad. But that was what was really important to me, not the actual bookbinding construction itself. When I first started, the biggest thing that I learned about this hobby is that rebinding a book, it's basically just 3 simple steps. And I say simple with a caveat because it's a lot of learning, but once you learn it, it's like clockwork. The first is preparing what's called the text block, what I was just talking about is that pieces of paper that are you are left with when you take off the cover. And basically, when you prepare the text block, all you're doing is adding the pretty papers that you want, reinforcing the text block so that way it's structurally sound, and making sure it's ready to go so that when your hardcover is done, you're able to glue everything together. The second thing that is part of this process is actually making the hardcover itself. What you usually need is some bookbinding board. This board I got from Amazon. What you're doing in the second step is creating that hardcover. You're adding a book cloth to it, either leather to it, faux leather, whatever you want. You're adding all of that. You're constructing the actual spacing between the hinges. So a really big component of bookbinding, which I learned the hard way, is these hinges here, how this opens and closes is crucial to the structure of this book. You're learning how to measure all of those hinges, you're learning how to create the spine, and then you're putting everything together so that way you'll have something that looks like this. This is a hardcover that I measured incorrectly that I would then use to put designs on and then case the book together. The third step is decorating the hardcover, which is the part that I get the most questions about just because people are confused with vinyl and heat transfer vinyl and what that actually means. Basically, I have what's called a Cricut vinyl cutting machine. This machine goes and cuts a specific type of material and will cut a design out for me. I then pick away the design pieces that I don't want, and then I basically iron it on to the book cover. This is the most expensive step, and for me, the most complicated because I design all of my covers myself. With all that being said, bookbinding is a 3-step process. I do again want to emphasize that I have tutorials that break down each of the steps, as well as I am going to make a video about what type of materials you need for each step in the process. Fortunately for bookbinding, a lot of the materials that you purchase, if you are going to start this hobby, you can either use multiple times or you will be using it for multiple steps in the process. Not only does the construction of the hardcover and measuring everything have a learning curve, learning how to use a Cricut or a Cameo or any type of vinyl cutting machine you have, there is a huge learning curve with that too. My Cricut and I had beef for the first few weeks because I would add measurements and it would cut out different measurements, and I had to reset it a few times to make it make sense. Everything is a learning curve here. Bookbinding and rebinding books takes time to perfect. So I highly recommend, if you're looking to get into this hobby, go to a thrift store, go to Goodwill, and find some used books that no one's going to want, so that way you can destroy them and practice on them. I messed up at least on my first 4 books. I do also want to mention that if you're interested in designing your own covers yourself, I highly recommend using Procreate. Basically, you need any type of software where you can design. I use my iPad Pro. It's from like 2019, so it's not like a new iPad by any means. But I use Procreate on there, and basically it allows me to design these covers and then export them as a PNG. So a PNG file is a file that has a transparent background, and that's what you need to cut on a Cricut. That's really all I have for you all today. I just wanted to emphasize that this hobby is accessible. It just takes time and effort. There is an overhead cost, but you're using these materials over and over and over again. And so as you continue to make books, the cost of materials per book obviously will decrease. If you're not interested in measuring, if you're not interested in cutting things, if you're not interested in picking away tiny vinyl pieces, this isn't the hobby for you. But if you're interested in all of that and you really want to make a pretty book for yourself or start this as a hobby, it is accessible and it is achievable. Just take things slow. Even if you do all of this, but you decide, hey, I want to do everything, and instead of invest a lot in the vinyl component to decorate a cover, I'm just going to see if I could do this and try to create a hardcover and reconstruct a book that is a lot more affordable than you think. I would love to hear in the comments if any of you are going to be starting bookbinding or starting on this journey. Reading has become such an important hobby to me, and being able to rebind books is now a creative outlet that I could use to make the books that I love so much my own. And I would love if others could do and want to do the same. This hobby should not be kept from being shared, and I'm hoping that this video will encourage you to at least look into trying this hobby, even if it doesn't work out for you. I am going to link my Amazon storefront below. I do earn commissions from it, so I just want to be transparent about that. Thank you all again for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to hit the like button or subscribe or just show any type of love, that would be really appreciated. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.